Hi everybody, welcome to the Initial Washroom podcast. I'm joined by Raymond Martin from the British Toilet Association, an old friend of the company, and one of our, we are a corporate champion for the British Toilet Association.
Wonderful.
And today we're talking about something quite relevant to us actually. We're talking about the male washroom, something that sometimes gets a little bit neglected in terms of the overall washroom. The male washroom sometimes falls behind in standards, and that's something that we've seen, and it's something that we're really passionate about changing as well. So, Raymond, welcome.
Thank you, Jimmy. Great to be here and continue the discussion.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
The male washroom.
Yeah.
Why is it that sometimes it's not held in such high standards maybe as the female washroom, do you think?
I think a couple of things really. Quite often the male washroom tends to be a place which is very difficult to clean because of the sheer volume of males going in and out type of stuff. And many of the cleaners are ladies, tend to be ladies, and don't want to spend a long time in there, because of obviously, the sights and smells. So they tend to be a bit more neglected than ladies' toilets are. Even males going in to do the washroom. I think we talked on it before, sort of management, knowing what you're doing a proper job as opposed to giving it a quick lick, a quick wipe round sort of stuff and a quick mop up, doing a proper professional job in cleaning the toilet, cleaning the stuff out of the way, washing things down, removing debris and whatever. That's a sort of a lost art at the moment, and I think we really have to get people back into position. We have to train them. We have to get more people coming into the industry. We maybe need to look at some sort of almost a passport system where if you learn how to do sinks, you get a stamp. If you learn how to do the toilet, you get a stamp and whatever. So you prove yourself that you can actually do it, because, as you know, it's really nice to go into a clean washroom. When you go in there and you think, oh, this is good, this is nice. Yeah. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you want to use it. But then even spend time in that area. If it's a good clean washroom, that you probably, the things around you, the shops and the people in that area care about you coming into that area, and you want to spend your money and they want to take your money for you.
Yeah. I think one thing that we've found as well, and that again we're sort of really keen to help understand and change, is not necessarily just the cleanliness of the male washroom, but also the provision in there for some things that we as men don't talk about as much as we probably should. Incontinence is a key one.
Massive.
It's and it's something that there should absolutely be provision for incontinence sufferers in every away from home washroom.
I think it's something which men are almost scared to talk about. I think it's something like 44% of men wouldn't seek any medical advice. When it comes down to continence issues type of stuff, and a large proportion of people in this country, 1 in 4 men would suffer with some sort of bladder leakage over their lifetime. 1 in 8 men, as we know now from the newspapers, are going to suffer with prostate cancer in their lifetime, and that's going to cause all sorts of continence problems. But for some reason, it was sort of taboo to talk about. It's not the type of thing you'd hear in the bars or the local clubs or whatever sort of stuff. But we really need to address those issues. Men need to have dignity when it comes down to using these things. So seeing the likes of bins, seeing the likes of sanitary towels and whatever, or continence pads in men's toilets, it's natural. It should be there, and it should always have been there. It's just taken us a number of years to get to realise that and working with people like Initial, you understand how these washrooms go together, what is proper, what is needed. And you've obviously listened and heard from your target markets, your clients, and the people, and working with ourselves. I think it's something which we need to change. We need to make sure that people are cared for if they have continence problems, because it leads on to many other different mental problems and physical problems as well.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I think it's something that both you and I go in a lot of toilets in our professions.
Professionally.
And it's almost the norm when you go into a ladies' toilet that you see things like vending machines for sanitary towels. You see bins in there for waste provision. But I think for so long it's just been a case of, well, they weren't in men's, so we don't really need them. But that's very much not the case.
Very much.
And I think one of the things that for me is really important is the dignity aspect of this. We're not as good at talking about things. There is a big amount of taboo around anything to do with incontinence.
Yeah.
And having provision for, as you say, things like incontinence products and bins, not only within the washroom but also within the cubicle itself,
Absolutely.
is a real plus point for anyone who's worried about having access to that. And as you mentioned, but just there as well, it's enough to stop sufferers. It's enough to stop people with incontinence from actually going out and going to different places in public if they don't have confidence that they can find suitable provision. And that's really telling.
We actually call it a loo leash.
Right.
It's a leash, you know, that you think, I'm going to go out, oh no, I can't, because I can't find a decent toilet, a toilet that provides for my problems and the continence problems, whatever I have. And it affects many, many people, particularly older people, but as well as that, drivers.
Yes,
and people travelling around the country, transient workers, postal office workers, healthcare workers, whatever, who are travelling around, who need to find a toilet, and quite often urgently. So they've got to know that toilet is fit for purpose.
Yeah.
But having things like bins in the men's toilets, this all came about really recently because of prostate cancer, which we mentioned before, and needing to have a bin inside the cubicle. And really that cubicle should be an ambulant cubicle. It should have rails for mobility. And you know, out of every maybe 6 or 7 cubicles in a men's toilet, the last cubicle would be an ambulant one, and that should definitely have a bin in it. We'd like to see a bin in every toilet, every cubicle obviously, but particularly the last one. So it means that anyone with a continence issue would know to steer towards that. And something we touched about before was signage as well.
Yes.
You know, a proper sign on the door saying this cubicle has been set up for your comfort. It has a colostomy shelf, it has a bin, it has handrails. It's ideal for those people who have those types of issues, because it's there's a big embarrassment factor. Something like I guess 51% of men said they wouldn't go out if they didn't know that the toilet had the right provision. And that's money off the streets. That's affecting local shops, local economies, local businesses, whatever. Because I think the purple pound, as we call it, which is the disabled pound, is worth £32.5 billion a year. The silver pound, older person's pound, as it's known as, the silver pound, is worth about £35 billion a year. So if half that money isn't going into the streets, it's not getting into the economy, it's not being spent in the shops and the cafes and the restaurants and the supermarkets, whatever sort of stuff. And that's having a massive knock-on effect with local shops closing down, local high streets, degradation starting to set in, whatever. But let's go back to toilets again. Rather than get into the economic thing, having the right bin, having a bin in the right place is absolutely instrumental. And particularly men, because men's toilets were poorly looked after for a long time, there is no reason for that to continue. And it's delighted to see that Initial are designing new bins and have the new signature range, whatever, to go into the cubicles.
That's right. So we've got our signature inclusive bin, which has been designed not only to accommodate the likes of sanitary waste in the female washroom, but also larger items such as incontinence waste that you get in the male washroom. So it's, as the name suggests, it's an inclusive unit suitable for use in any washroom for any waste type. And that's really the thinking behind it, and it's why we've consulted with people such as yourselves to find out exactly what is needed and how we can best impact, because as you've alluded to there, the knock-on effects of not having a bin
it's more than just
in the gents is quite extensive.
But it's about dignity. It's about dignity and decency as well. You know, if you have these problems, it's enough that you have to suffer with these problems and change your pads and change your underwear, whatever type of stuff, and think about short journeys. Even some people are putting themselves at risk, not taking water tablets and things like that when they have to do a journey. They'll cut down on their medicines, but sometimes cutting down the medicines will actually make them urinate more in a shorter period of time. And when it actually becomes time to urinate, they get very little warning, 2 or 3 minutes. Otherwise, they're going to soil themselves. So knowing that the toilets out there are clean and decent, but have the bins in the right place, have the provision in the right place, and if they had vending, in the meal as well with sanitary towels and those sort of things, wouldn't that be wonderful?
It really would. I think the message is loud and clear. This is something that is very definitely changing. We want to change it that little bit quicker, really.
We'd love to work along with you to do exactly that. We'd love to change people's concepts.
Excellent. In terms of business owners, in terms of the impression that providing suitable male washroom environments within a workplace gives, how important is it for them? How important is it for a business owner to provide a good standard of a male washroom? What is that?
It talks to the staff. Literally, it says you are cared for here. You're valued in the business type of stuff. If you have people working on a site, or you have them working in an office environment, whatever. Again, they're drinking water, they're drinking tea during the day while they're at their desk. And when they get up to go and they need to do a couple of things. We need to go to the toilet, and we need to wash our hands, and we need to freshen up, whatever. So having a decent, clean toilet is actually it's almost part of the staff handbook.
Yes.
It's a necessity. It should be there, and it's covered under the law. There is employment law which says you must provide toilets for male and female workers, and at a certain rate, whatever. But I think it's very, very few places I've gone to, and we've gone into a lot of private companies and gone and looked at them. It's one of the first things that I think that goes onto the schematic diagram when they're designing the building. They say, right, here's the office space, here's the workspace, the floor space, so workshops, whatever, and here are the toilets, and how many toilets do we need? And that's good from that perspective. How they keep them clean, how they look after them, I think that comes back to you guys. I think that comes back to initial, to step in there and get them up to standard, because most people don't realise how to clean them properly. But it's really, really important that particularly male washrooms in a work environment are kept at the right standard, because they will get dirty very quickly, as you know, and so they need regular attention, and they need to be cared for.
And that's something that I know you're very passionate about, in terms of not only being a voice for washrooms and for toilets as a whole, but for male washrooms where there isn't necessarily the same requirement at the moment for provision of waste units in there. That's hopefully something that might change in the future.
Well, we're talking with the BTA. We sit on the BSI, British Standards Council. We help to set BS 6465 parts 1 to 4 and BS 8300. And we're looking at these things all the time. We've managed to get the introduction of the bins into the cubicles. That's the first stop. The next stop was then to get ostomy shells put in. That's now in the provision. And now we're looking at additional provision, because it tends to be the female washroom which gets the most look, because there's more females out and about during the day in shops and shopping centres and whatever. But in the workplace particularly, it's probably a 50-50 split, maybe slightly more on the male side, and therefore those washrooms need to be cared for as well. So we constantly need to be looking at the legislation where it is, and we update it about every 3 years, because it takes us about 3 years to work through it. All the different elements, because you're looking at columns of clearance, you're looking at door widths, you're looking at lighting, you're looking at locks, all these different elements, and we literally take the washroom apart and we put it back together again, and then we ask you guys to come along and clean it once we've built it. But we have to look at all those different aspects, and of course things are coming up all the time. Prostate cancer wasn't a big thing. It probably was a big thing, but it wasn't highlighted
about as much, was it? No.
And ostomy in exactly the same way, colostomy, and we got bladder and bowel conditions and such like. Something to do with the food that we're eating, and the processed foods, whatever seems to be going through is quicker and causing more problems. But that's great, because it gives us a job to do. It gives us a job to sit down, study, look at these things, and make sure we have the solutions.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Insightful again as ever, Raymond. Absolutely love chatting with you about this, and obviously one that's quite close to our hearts. Thank you very much again for
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Shine a light on the male washroom. Thank you, everyone.